You think you know the French Revolution? When you picture it, do you envision the chilling sight of the guillotine, the menacing blade poised for execution? But let me take you beyond that infamous machine to reveal one of the most shocking executions in history. Executed not by a device but by a brutal mob using their bare hands. This is the harrowing story of Princess Lamballe, the closest friend of Marie Antoinette. What happened to her on September 3, 1792 is both unbelievable and tragic. We'll uncover the verified facts surrounding her gruesome murder, while dispelling the grotesque legends that have emerged over time. This is a tale of unwavering loyalty, unimaginable terror, and the rapid transformation of a beloved figure into a target of public hatred that demanded destruction. Before she became public enemy number one, Lamballe led an extraordinary life. Born Marie Thérèse Louise de Savoy-Carignan in Italy in 1749 to a wealthy family, she married the Prince de Lamballe at 17, one of the wealthiest men in France. However, tragedy struck soon after. Her husband died within a year, leaving her a widow at just 18. This loss led her straight into the opulent halls of the French court at Versailles, where she met another young foreigner, Marie Antoinette. Their friendship was instant and remarkable, a beacon of authenticity in a palace rife with deceit. As Antoinette's status rose, she appointed Lamballe as the superintendent of her household, a position that made her not just staff but family. Yet this loyalty came at a catastrophic price. As public animosity toward Marie Antoinette grew, her friends were dragged down with her. Disgusting pamphlets circulated, accusing the queen and her inner circle of treachery and scandal. The close bonds between women like Lamballe and Antoinette were distorted into sordid tales of secret love affairs, inciting further public rage. The quiet, faithful friend was transformed into a villain depicted as a corrupting influence, an Austrian spy, an enemy of France. With this transformation, a massive target was painted on her back. The storm began on July 14, 1789, when the storming of the Bastille symbolized the monarchy's impending collapse. As aristocrats fled France, fearing for their lives, Princess Lamballe found herself in London, urged by her friends and family to stay safe. But her loyalty to Marie Antoinette was unwavering. Antoinette was in peril, and Lamballe believed it was her duty to be by her side. "I must live and die with her," she declared. Acknowledging the risk, she wrote her will and returned to Paris, walking straight into the chaos. Lamballe was present when the royal family attempted a desperate escape, which ended in disaster. She witnessed the mob storm the palace on June 20, 1792, and throughout the attack, her sole concern was for the queen's safety, not her own. That fierce loyalty would eventually cost her everything. By August 10, 1792, the monarchy was thoroughly toppled, and the royals imprisoned in a temple fortress. Lamballe ended up separated from the queen and imprisoned in La Force, a dark and terrifying jail. As August turned to September, Paris was engulfed in panic. An enemy force was marching toward the city, threatening widespread destruction if any harm came to the royal family. Paradoxically, this fear triggered a violent response from the revolutionaries, who believed spies lurked in every prison cell. Revolutionary leader Georges Danton proclaimed, "To conquer them we must dare. Dare again, always dare." And France is saved. What began as a call to bravery soon morphed into a monstrous tide of violence. On September 2nd, the horrifying killing spree commenced. For 5 relentless days, mobs descended upon the prisons in what became known as the September Massacres. They dragged men and women from their cells, held mock trials that lasted mere seconds, and brutally executed them in the courtyards. The streets were drenched in blood, and Princess Lamballe, trapped within those very walls, endured the terrifying cacophony of screams echoing from beyond her cell. She was not just any prisoner, she symbolized everything the mob despised. It was only a matter of time before they would come for her. On the morning of September 3rd, 2 guards entered her cell, where the violence had been escalating through the night. It was her turn to face an absurd tribunal, a farce where a few men sat at a blood-stained table, hastily deciding life and death. As Lamballe entered the courtyard, she was nearly overwhelmed by the sight of the lifeless bodies strewn about. Although appearing calm during the questioning, she was presented with a final ultimatum: Swear to liberty and equality and renounce loyalty to the king and queen. Knowing this was her last chance at survival, she refused. I will readily swear to the first, but I cannot swear to the second. It is not in my heart, she declared defiantly. A man nearby urged her to conform, whispering, "Swear. If you do not swear, you are dead." Yet she would not betray her friend. Another account notes her response, "Whether the first die sooner or later is a matter of indifference to me. I have made the sacrifice of my life." The verdict was immediate. The judge proclaimed, "Let Madame be set at liberty." It sounded like a reprieve, but in reality, it was a death sentence, a signal to the bloodthirsty mob waiting outside. When she was pushed through the door into the courtyard, chaos ensued. The mob, their faces contorted with rage, closed in on her. What unfolded next is horrific, but we must differentiate fact from exaggerated myth. Eyewitness accounts confirm that the mob descended upon her, mercilessly stabbing and beating her to death with pikes and sabers. It was a brutal and chaotic execution over in an instant. However, the horror did not end there. They severed her head from her body, an act of ultimate degradation, and stripped her remains bare, leaving them on display in the street. The remnants of her body were never officially recovered. These chilling facts remain undisputed. She was killed for her loyalty and steadfastness. Yet what transpired next and the myths that followed her death are equally disturbing. Instead of being a mere murder victim, her severed head was used as a weapon of psychological terror. The mob mounted it on a pike and paraded it through the streets of Paris, headed towards the Temple prison in a remorseless display meant to force Marie Antoinette to witness her friend's brutal fate. This wasn't just violence. It was psychological warfare of the most calculated kind. When the mob reached the temple, they gathered beneath the window and shouted for the queen to come out and confront the horror before her. Some accounts even suggested they wanted her to kiss the lips of her slain friend. Inside, the royal family could hear the tumult, and the king's valet, upon seeing the head on display, immediately understood its grim significance. As Marie Antoinette inquired about the commotion, guards rushed to block the window. We do not know if she laid eyes on the horrifying spectacle, but we do know that a guard bluntly informed her, "They are trying to show you the head of Princess Lamballe." Hearing those words shattered her resolve. Antoinette cried out in anguish and collapsed in a faint, reportedly weeping through the night. The mob had succeeded in their cruel intention, inflicting a psychological wound that would haunt Marie Antoinette for the duration of her life. The image of her friend's severed head on a pike became a deeply embedded memory, a constant reminder of the consequences of political fury. While the genuine story of Lamballe's death is horrific enough, the myths that have sprung from it are even more disturbing. One of the most persistent tales involves grotesque sexual desecration of her body, with claims of rape and mutilation, which evidence suggests are fabricated. Contemporary records from that time, even those by observers who despised her, do not corroborate these wild tales. They appear to be embellished propaganda intended to demonize the revolutionaries and portray them as monsters. Another horrific rumor alleged that her heart was ripped from her chest and consumed. However, there is no credible evidence supporting this claim. It seems to be mere fabrication. Other myths assert that her head was taken away to be groomed for the queen, or that she hid a secret message within her hair, fantasies that lack any basis in reality. Lastly, one of the longest-standing legends is that Marie Antoinette was forced to kiss Lamballe's severed head. We know conclusively from multiple accounts that this did not occur. So why were these myths perpetuated? The answer lies in the realms of propaganda, shock value, and the deep-seated human fascination with grotesque narratives. By concentrating on these sensationalized stories, we risk overshadowing the true horror of Lamballe's fatal lynching carried out by a mob that perceived her as a powerful symbol of everything they despised. Her death is among the most infamous events of the entire French Revolution, emblematic of how quickly political rage can cloud compassion and reduce a life to a focal point of hate. Princess Lamballe's tragic story serves as a relentless reminder of the costs of revolution, revealing what occurs when personal loyalty collides with political fury. It emphasizes that the most horrifying tales are not always lies, but instead, the grim realities that unfold amidst chaos. She is a somber figure, her legacy eclipsed by the savage manner of her death. What did you find most shocking about the true story of Princess Lamble? Do you believe history should focus on verified facts or explore the compelling myths that arise? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And for more deep dives into the dark, often misunderstood chapters of history, be sure to subscribe. Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell to support our work. Never miss an upload. Like this vid, drop a comment and share it with others to help us grow this historical community.